Welcome to the first edition of the Hoops Journal Star Sportswriters podcast. I'm sports editor Wes Huett. I'm here with girls basketball beat writer Adam Duvall.
Hello, hello.
And boys, John Komosa, kind of new to the fold. The young one, green, rookie. Breaking down all things hoops. Our first one for the holiday, first one of the season. I'm not sure if we'll get another one before the new year. Probably not. But we're here. We have a lot of going on so far this season. A lot of meat on the bone, as I said earlier. So I'll go across both of you. You guys can kind of break down who you are. Everybody knows Adam, of course. John, you can introduce yourself and just talk a little bit about so far in the hoops season.
Yeah, my name's John Komosa. I've been a sports reporter here at the Journal Star for about 7 years now. So this is my first year on the high school boys basketball beat, and it's been great to start. I've caught a lot of great games. Started off the season seeing a really good Peoria Christian Quest game, and then from there it's just only gotten better. So a lot of good teams to watch out there for small and large schools both. So looking forward to a good holiday tournament for the rest of the year.
He took about 15 seconds to just pull that PCS homerism already, right?
Had to get him in.
PCS grad, PCS, John Komosa.
PCS squad.
Yeah. I unfortunately have not seen very many good games. I've seen a lot of running clock, a lot of 30-plus. I'm hoping for 2019 holiday tournaments be a little bit better, but I missed out on the end of Morton's three-peat in 17,
right? And
Richwood's winning last season, this year, 18. But I'm back, and
he's back, baby.
Looking forward to it.
Well, it's interesting because it's similar. You say a lot of. I think that kind of is indicative of both of the sport this year. You do have the cream of the crop. Morton and Richwood seem to be head and shoulders above everybody, so you're going to have a lot of big spreads. Where in basketball, it feels like, in the boys, it feels like the mantle of Peoria's best is up for grabs.
I mean, it is, yeah. There's obviously too in the Middle Illini. There's some teams that are, you Metamora, Morton, your power teams, and then there's some up and coming teams too. Right. East Peoria has obviously battled Washington and Metamora in close games, and they're definitely building over there. They got some senior leadership. They look like a very good team this year.
Well, we're going to touch on some few recent things. Last night, there was a pretty surprising result there over in Peoria.
It was. It was in the kitchen. Notre Dame hosted Manual. It was actually a non-conference game, even though they're both in the Big 12 there. And that was a very surprising game, even from Tom Locker, Notre Dame coach. He said at the end of the game that he did not expect that. Right. He said in a game with Manual, a team like that, you don't expect to beat them like that. It was 62-30.
Wow.
Notre Dame outscored them 24-2 in the first quarter. It was 20-0, and Manual got their first bucket on a Rolando Brown layup with 45 seconds left in the first. So wow. to do that, I think they turned them over 13 times, and they had about 5 in the first half. So Notre Dame plays a very good zone defense. They got a lot of good defensive players with Joe Gustafson and Matt Pudick, and then obviously Connor Dillon and Declan Dillon are their guards. So yeah, they're a very, very talented team, and they bounced back after their Urbana loss last Friday, and then picked up a big win against Manual and IVC over the weekend. So that was big for them.
Cool. Do you have anything recently on the girls' side that's caught your eye?
Well, there was a trio of Middle Illini games last night. Morton, another running clock. 4 of their 5 Middle Illini victories have come by running clock in the fourth quarter. They actually extended their league winning streak to 38 in a row. So
after the holiday, how about we just get Morton and Richwood together and they'll just play like a series of 15 games and determine the sectional champion? I'm
down with that. I'm down with that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, aside from those two, is there anybody out there that actually surprised you?
Canton actually, they've won 5 in a row. They were on a 3-game skid. They lost to Lewistown, Rock Island, and Morton, all state-ranked teams.
Right.
Beat Dunlap last night by 13. They have a game against Bloomington tomorrow night, and then they head into the State Farm Holiday Classic as the 15th seed.
Oh, man.
So 7-3.
15 seed. That's
either
a pretty deep tournament or it's a bad seed.
I think it's a combination of both. They get a team out of Kentucky who's the 2nd seed in their first round game. So it'll be interesting to see. They have good leadership. Tori Oakes, Anna Plummer, Blair Jacobson. I mean, those three are really played well for second-year coach Jessica Jones. But I'll talk about the middle Illini a little bit later. But there hasn't been. Well, there will be a little bit of parity from
behind Morton.
Behind Morton. 2 to 5.
Before we moved on to season overview so far, you mentioned Tremont game you wanted to mention.
Yeah, there was another game. So that was the large school game that stood out, obviously, and grabbed some people's attention. In the small school, it was Tremont lost on the road to Tri-Valley. Tremont went into that game 10-1. They've been very consistent all year. So that was a loss for them that kind of surprised some people as well. But they'll bounce back. It seems like they got 5 guys that are very consistent scorers, usually in the double figures for them. And Tim Rice, Colton Polhemus, Ryan Wagenbach, Tim Rice, and
pull it. You got it.
Yeah. What's his name here?
Wagenbach, that's a
Wagenbach, but
that's a name that's.
There's one other guy off the bench that's very consistent for them.
Boys have a nice little athletic year. I know the football team missed the playoffs, but they battled back to 5-4, right?
Yeah.
And, golf team made the state tournament. Now they're having a good hoop season. So
Titus Thompson, don't want to leave him out. He's another one of their good scorers.
Tim Rice
was a golfer. He also ran track. So yeah, they're an athletic team over there. They got a lot of guards that can get out and run. So.
All right, we'll go back and forth. You each have some teams you want to spotlight so far this season. We're about 11, 12 games into the season for each team so far. So a little pre-holiday recap, so to speak, of who are some teams. We'll go with the 2 big teams. We'll go. Each of you give me your big teams.
Okay, then, I'll start with Richwood's 14-0, reigning 3A champ, long, athletic. Cameron Taylor going to Marquette, Tiana Johnson uncommitted. Nia Williams, Jada McLeod, who's getting a bunch of offers, scored 60 points or more 10 times, including twice 80 or more.
It's a talented team.
Their next game is a meeting at the Sterling Tournament against Class 4A number 6 ranked and undefeated 12-0 Rockton Hononegah.
Ooh, that's a good matchup.
Yeah, so the Knights under Todd Hersey are playing really well.
And you got another team there in the city that's catching your eye too?
Yeah, I like Peoria High. I wrote about them last week. Their strength of schedule, Michi Edwards, really kind of focused on improving that, who he's playing, that slate of games. They have 5 teams who they will meet or have played that are ranked. Rock Island, Normal Community, Normal West. They'll play Morton. They have Oak Park Fenwick on the schedule. They're 4-4. Those 4 losses.
But you do have them 5th in your rankings.
I do. So I do have them 5th.
You must feel like they had a tough slate so far.
Yeah, that's part of the reason, and I think that they're dark horse.
Nice
to win the Manual Holiday Girls Tournament, and I'll talk more about that. But
what makes it so interesting too is they're 4A, right?
They are 4A.
So they'll avoid the gauntlet that is Morton and Richwoods. Obviously, they'll have their own teams they have to defeat, but that makes them an interesting sort of candidate to maybe make a run to the sectional or beyond.
Very dangerous if they get a play-in game and then go up against
right
3-4 seed in that semifinal. Then they could make a nice little run to the sectional.
All right, Joko, you have a couple of Mid-Atlantic teams.
So obviously, to start the year, Metamora was coming in as a favorite after a controversial loss last year in the Super Sectionals. Right. So you could tell, only losing 2 seniors, that this was going to be a team to watch.
Right.
To start the year, things got a little interesting for Metamora. They had Thomas Hall out because he got injured in the football playoffs against Joliet Catholic there in October. Then they had Drew Damery out. He also got hurt during the football season. Sean Mervis, who comes off the bench for them, he was also hurt with tennis elbow, so he's back in the rotation now. And
does he play tennis or?
I'm not sure, but he had it wrapped up. So
that's the first thing that I thought.
He's back in the lineup in the lineup now. And then Jackson Swanson, he probably won't be back. He broke his leg. So, and they battled some injuries even earlier in the year. they played East Peoria in a very close game, and they didn't have Colin Dietz for that game. He was out with an ankle. So Danny Greaves has done a good job of going to the bench, getting guys in there, rotating, and Metamora 7-3 on the year right now. So they have just last week they lost to Morton at home, 59-51, who's another team I'll get to here in a second. They lost to Danville, who's state ranked in 4A and unbeaten. They lost by 3 on the road. I watched them Monday night, and they looked like a completely different team than even the Morton game. I mean, they were clicking on all cylinders. They got guys that come in, obviously, seniors, Joe Nalen, Colin Dietz led the team with 17 each. And then Peyton Havens and Gabe Mason were big with 11 each. And Caleb Kaiser, who transferred from Limestone during the summer, he added 10. So they got a lot of depth. And then, obviously, with Thomas Hall, he hasn't played yet, but he's back dressed. So they're expecting to have him probably after Christmas, after the holiday tournament. So that'll add a huge piece for them, as he was a player last year that was big for them in the playoffs. So another team there was that Morton. They're 9-2. They lost the first game of the year to Glenwood in overtime, and then since then they've found it. They've had wins over Peoria High, Washington, Pekin, and that win over Metamora. Wow. Jarrett Kreider and Barrick Holden, 2 seniors, including Eric Henson, too. You can't say enough about these guys. They're do it all players. Jarrett Kreider, night in, night out, he's getting you 20 plus points, and Barrick Holden's right there with him. Those guys have scored in double figures pretty much all year. So those 2 guys will help them as they go to the Pekin Holiday Insurance Tournament. They got the 2 seed. So
Jarrett Kreider, great player to pick in fantasy football.
If you're for fans of the podcast listening, from the fall, we're gonna jump down to the smalls. Adam, you got a couple of small school girls teams that have
we'll
caught
start
your eye so far.
Yeah, we'll start in 1A. Illini Bluffs, they're ranked 3 in the state, and a big reason is them sweeping the Macomb tournament. They beat 2 4A teams, Pekin and Moline. They beat Macomb, which is a 3A team, and then they beat Pleasant Plains and Havana, both 2A squads. Pleasant Plains lost to Eureka, last year's Elite 8. They only have 10 girls in the program. I talked to Jim Robertson. He said he estimates less than 50% of the practices that they've had this year that they've had the full 10. Because sickness or making up schoolwork or having to leave early for doctor's appointments or other extracurricular activities.
Why just 10? I mean, is there?
It's funny that there's only 10 in the program because their 7th grade and 8th grade team just made it to state.
Right.
I think the 7th grade team won state. So I mean, there's a good wave. Of talent. But it is a small school.
I mean, we got 170 kids. And so obviously only half those are girls. So it's a
But their starting lineup, they have 3 5'10" girls.
Oh my!
Peyton Pullman, Hannah Hicks, Emma Hicks, and 2 6-footers, Cameron Stafford and Hannah Alvey. So and these were the kids that grew up watching Taylor McClintock.
I think you just need 10 when you got that kind of size.
Right. Yeah. So Illini Bluffs 13-2. They're the number 3 seed at the Beardstown. The Lady Tiger Classic.
Venerable Beardstown tournament.
Yep.
Back when, in my younger days when I covered girls basketball, that was one of the premier holiday tournaments in the state.
Yeah. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention Eureka, which finished 4th in 2A last year. They're actually ranked number 2 in Class 2A right now. Gone is, the small school POY.
2-time, right?
2-time. Tessa Lehman and their other all-stater, Natalie Bardwell. But they have Courtney Heffron, they have Lauren Osmus, they have Natalie Meese. Last week they ran into a kind of a tough part of their schedule. They lost back-to-back games to Washington, Bloomington Central Catholic on Friday, Saturday. They kind of did what Metamora did. But they bounced back, and they're the top seed at the St. Bede tournament, and I'll see them for the first time on Friday night when they host Flanagan Cornell.
Like we were talking about with Tremont, the Eureka, that town's had a nice fall, and now starting to have a nice the cross-country title and
football team,
the volleyball team, and now the girls' basketball team is number 2 in the state. To say nothing of the college there, where we had the playoff appearance by the Lee Anthony Reasonover-led Red Devils.
Right.
Joko, you got a couple of
I do.
We'll
start with Farmington. I mean, they've just been playing great all year. They're 10-1 right now. They just got a win over Elmwood last week, so I think they won 41-34, and they got a win over Macomb yesterday by 10 or 11. So that was big. They got a lot of different guys that can score it for them, including Jared DePriest, who we've obviously heard his name. He just signed with South Dakota State for football. So very big post player down there, and he can also get out and run the floor. I mean, I've seen him in transition, and he's just a great player to have on their team. He gets some double figures, lots of rebounds. So
it warms my heart to hear all these multi-sport names come at me. The Jared Kreiders and the Jared DePriest and Tim Rice and Thomas Hall.
Especially, I mean, guys, multi-sport guys that are going out and getting first team in both sports.
Right.
That's just Thomas Hall did it, and Kreider and DePriest. So it's just shows you how talented these kids are in the area. But yeah, they got Jaden Rutledge, who was a really good 3-point shooter for him last year. He's back, and he's a junior. Ben Martin just had 21 points for him in their win over Macomb yesterday. So they got a lot of different guys you can score it too, and Co Jensen. So that's just a really exciting team to watch, and they've been handling some teams this year. So they'll be at the Macomb Western Holiday Tournament. So that's always got a pretty stacked field. So we'll see what they do there.
Your other team here, you wrote about a bit today in today's Journal Star.
I did. I wrote a column on DMAC, and I talked to John Hughes, and they've lost Neil Sherman and Dawson Jones from last year's team. They lost by 1 point to BCC in the super sectional, and BCC went on to get third last year. Right. So that they're returning. They've returned 8 seniors, so they have a lot of depth there. And Levi Sherman, who is the reigning POI, has
back as well.
Has just proved why he's one of the best players in small schools. They lost to Quest 44-42 in the Heights tournament title over Thanksgiving, and since then they've just won, I believe it's 7 out of their last 8 games. Yeah. So they've been playing very good. Just last night they beat IVC on the road. Sorry, Adam.
Ghost.
65-44.
Adam Duvall is an IVC graduate.
Sherman scored. He scored 25 to lead the way, and he reached the 1,000 point mark for his career. So he's a do-it-all guy for them, and Hughes can't praise those guys enough. Right. So they're 8-2 on the year, and they'll be looking to go to the holiday tournaments and
that's our next on our list here of the most wonderful time of the year. I want to sing it, but I won't sing it. But holiday tournaments, teams are starting to define themselves, and I really think in the years of my years of covering high school basketball, it seems like the holiday tournaments is that time where if they don't find themselves, they at least get on the road to finding themselves. Because some of the best teams that I've covered, even if they struggle out of the gate, they either find themselves at a holiday tournament because you see a lot of different faces. You'll see teams you don't play normally. You'll see teams from out of state, teams from out of the area. You go up against a nice team that you did, and you play well against it, that just boosts the confidence. What are some places you're looking at them for the girls' side?
Well, and especially in girls, small school, once those holiday tournaments are over, they have the month of January.
Right. You're right. That's true.
And that's it. So, I mean, you're looking at, probably 12 games in January.
And and coaches tend to focus on the conference season at that point. It's all about
right.
Even conferences don't necessarily. Everybody gets in the postseason when it comes to basketball. So winning a conference tournament or title doesn't necessarily guarantee anything like it does in football or another sport. So, but I do covering high school enough. Conference titles are important to schools.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. You mentioned Beardstown. The 24-team field there is pretty top heavy. The semifinals could potentially be top seeded Lewistown versus number 4 Illini West, and then on the other side of the bracket, number 2 Midwest Central Delavan and number 3 Illini Bluffs.
Nice.
So that's a pretty deep field, which also includes South Fulton that handed Illini Bluffs one of its losses. It has Havana, Macomb. So pretty good field there. The other tournament,
got another one closer to home.
Here? Manual, the Manual Holiday Tournament. I mentioned Peoria High, kind of a dark horse to maybe win that. Dunlap is back. They're the reigning champs. They graduated 2 Division I players, Kai Kohler, to Edwardsville and Christina Britter to NIU, but they have a nice core of juniors: Ellie Sutter, Ellie Sorensen, Tyra Davis. Moline, which was the runner-up last year, is back. And then, Washington and Limestone. Notre Dame, which has been playing well, the hosts and the Ghosts. Joko will be able to piggyback off State Farm Holiday Classic. Richwood's obviously top seeded there. Morton is the 4 seed. Like I said, Canton's 15 on the small school side. Brimfield is the 3 seed. The only thing that really stands in the way of Richwood's Morton Part 2 is the semis. Don't know anything about this Kentucky team. Morton would potentially face them. And then on Richwood's side of the bracket is Rock Island and two-time Illinois Miss Basketball, Bree Beal. So they could spoil the rematch, but a Richwood's Rock Island semifinal would be
that'd be a nice test too.
Yeah,
actually, if I were to Todd Hershey, I'd probably rather play them than showing my hand again to Morton.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you don't want Bob Becker to have 2 games on film of you,
right?
And vice versa.
Yeah. So John, you said read about Peoria High back at.
So going off of that, Peoria High, they're going to be going back into that tournament for the first time since 1981-82 season. So they got the 11 seed. They'll play Wheaton Warrenville South. And Metamora, they're the 4 seed over there, so they're going to open up with Magnesia Park Harlem. So that should be a good game. And Metamora, I like where they're at in that field, so they should be able to make a pretty deep run there. And then one of our other Metro teams, Peoria Christian, I'll give them a nod again.
Jeez,
shout out PCS.
PCS squad.
They're the 16th seed, and they play top seeded Aurora Christian. But I do like that Peoria Christian team. They're unbeaten right now in the Tri-County, and despite their record, they've battled with some really good teams, including Quest. So under Jason Persinger, their first-year coach, I think they could come out of that tournament with some wins. So. Another tournament, obviously.
Jason will have a fruit basket for you.
Yeah. Another tournament I'm interested in, obviously, every year is the Pekin Holiday Tournament. As I said, Morton's got the number 2 seed, and it's unique because they open with Pattonville, Missouri, and I think we were talking about this.
It's the first non-Illinois team at that tournament. I believe.
First non-Illinois team, so that's intriguing for a team like that to be there. And then I got the bracket here. It looks like Richwoods will play Plainfield East. We got Washington playing Lamphere, that seems like that's a game.
That's usually a classic game.
Always a good game between them.
Yeah, so. I don't care how. I'm sorry, Kevin Brown to me is one of the best coaches that's ever come through here. And you never want to play his team. So I don't care if they're down or young or. You can roll 12 randos off the street and give Kevin Brown a couple hours to. Point him in the right direction, in a very direct manner, and they would probably play well. So. Yeah,
I'll go off of what you're saying about Kevin Brown. He's got a young team, and despite their record, it might not show that they've had some tough losses.
Kind of what I was saying about finding yourself. Washington feels like the type of team that could have a nice run at Pekin, slide into the middle line, and second, third challenge Metamora maybe, and Morton for. Into the mix there and really be a tough out.
It's definitely a rebuilding year, it seems like, but once they find their identity, which I think they will, he's got those guys always ready for the postseason. They got a young team this year. They got Gus Lucas. He's a freshman. He's 6'5", so he jumped right in the starting spot, and he's a very good player. And then
I got a little anecdote. I live in Washington, and my son goes to Washington Middle School, and last year I was at a science fair, and I was in the gym and I look across and I'm like, who's the new teacher?
Yeah.
It was Gus Lucas, the 8th grader.
Yeah.
Who had like a full Duval beard. And no, he didn't. I was kidding. Yeah. But
he's a big kid. Yeah.
And he's got to grow into a nice player.
He's got a sweet jump shot. So they got another guy, Ricky Woods, over there, and Devin Vanderhyfe. So they've got some good players. And those kids, Woods and Vanderhyfe, are both sophomores. Yeah. So they're a young team, and I think they're definitely going to find their niche here. So
speaking of good tournaments, though, Pontiac's always a good one.
We'll go to Pontiac. So we were just talking about Manual, and Manual's that type of team where they're not going to let one loss get them down. They'll be right back because they got wins over Peoria High and Richwoods this year. So Willie Coleman's done a fantastic job over there. They got really good staff of players. They got Rolando Brown, as I mentioned. Quantez Edwards is a senior, and then Joshua Ivory and Amarion Bird, he's a sophomore. So he's always got a very good, polished team. Yeah, they'll be at this Pontiac Holiday Tournament, and what jumps out at you, let's see, we got Bennett, Bloom Township, Bloomington, Chicago Curry, and Danville we're all Class 4A state ranked teams. So that's 5 of the top 10. And yeah, let's see, the top seed is so
good that Mike O'Brien will actually come south of I-80 to watch basketball.
Yeah, so Manuel's going to open up with Bennett.
OB,
so
I love you.
I know, that'll be a good game for Manuel. So they open up with Bennett, so we'll see what they can do there, and they're guaranteed, obviously, a couple games over there.
Doesn't Simeon have like 5 or 6 losses or something like that? They've just played a loaded schedule.
That's the thing. You can never look at the Chicago schools' losses and think like, oh, this team hasn't been producing. They play such hard schedules throughout the year, and then when they actually get into the Illinois bulk of it, if they travel or whatever, they get to the postseason and they're playing, deep there. So, yeah, I like that, and we'll see what kind of comes out of that. I think Manuel could do decent over there. So,
all right. Well, holiday's over. We're coming into January 2019. What do you look on the horizon a little bit? What are you kind of expecting? What are you looking forward to beyond the holidays, Adam?
I'm looking at the Mid-Atlantic Conference. Like it or not, I'm going to say who will finish second. I mean,
right. Morris is really good. Yeah.
Yeah. The top 3 teams. It goes Morton, Canton is up by half a game, and then Metamora. Morton has running clocked both. They running clock Canton and beat Metamora by 20 plus.
Wow.
But a matchup between Metamora and Canton looms on January 8th. Metamora will have to face Pekin first, and Canton has to get by Washington. Dunlap is in the hunt, too. Can't count Dunlap out. So it'll be interesting to see who fills out that 2 to 5 slot there in the middle line.
Yeah, there's certainly a power vacuum there after Morton for someone to jump up and fill.
Yeah, absolutely.
John, how about you?
Kind of looking ahead to like injuries. I'd be getting some guys back. Like I mentioned, Thomas Hall, Greaves hopes to have him back after the holidays. So that is a crucial piece for that team with the depth that they have. So he's only adding more and more veteran experience to that team. He's an Air Force Academy commit, so that's a D1.
Well, I think their depth allows them. Maybe they don't need to rush him back.
That's the thing, and I don't think they need, like you said, I don't think they need to rush him back, and he's being patient and just letting him heal, and they have enough guys that can score in double figures for you. So he's kind of taking his time with that and letting him come back on his own terms. Another one just talked about how Notre Dame is clicking, and they'll have hopefully Noah Reynolds back soon. He's a very talented guard, sophomore, 6'1". He's a sharpshooter. He averaged about 9.4 points last year. And I talked to Locker at the beginning of the year. He's getting interest from Central Michigan and Bradley. So that's another key piece on their team, arguably one of their best players outside of Connor Dillon. So, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting once these 2 guys get back for those teams, how far they can go. So,
all right, well, we'll look for these guys' coverage over the holidays. We'll have all that and more coming up next week. We have some previews coming day after Christmas, so you'll see all the pairings and matchups and everything you need to know about a big week of holiday hoops. For Adam Duvall and John Komosa, I'm sports editor Wes Huett. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.